Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 32. So, Amanda James, here we are on the 17th anniversary of To Catch a Predator in Bowling Green, Kentucky, when Lorne Armstrong was arrested. How are you feeling today?
Feeling nostalgic for, I don't know, feeling great. You know why? Because no matter what's going on in your life, if you had a bad day or your dog is barking or whatever other thing is kind of bothering you, at least you're not about to walk into a sting where Chris Hansen and the camera crews and the Bowling Green Sheriff's Department are waiting to take you to jail. At least you're not Lauren. It's a good feeling.
It's an excellent perspective, a very
hmm
positive one.
hmm
So, very nice. Yeah. So, today, while we reflect on this amazing evening when Lorne was busted, we're all so happy about that because he really needed to be. We are going to take a look at the lawsuit that Lorne filed against NBC. Now, this night, remember, is his birthday.
yeah.
It's his 54th birthday, to be exact. So we've known Lorne
yeah.
for the last 17 years. When he was the young age of 37, he just turned 37
Yes.
when he walked in. And it was supposed to be a night of firsts. It was going to be the night of perhaps his first kiss. I know there's a lot of people who think that maybe it would have been.
hmm
It was going to be the first night when Kayla was going to take Lorne's flower, his beautiful purity. It was going to bind them together forever, that beautiful moment. Yeah,
hmm
it was supposed to happen.
It was.
But it actually turned into a night of less. So it was the last time that he was going to walk out of his apartment, the last time that he was going to drive his truck, the last time he was going to see Bud,
hmm
the last time he was going to walk past the apartments of his buggy ass neighbors,
hmm
the last time that he was going to go to work. He left work that day and that was going to be it.
The last time that he would be a free man in his entire life and not under the thumb of federal probation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, unbeknownst to him, he walked right out of there thinking he was going to have the greatest birthday ever. But it's the worst one instead. And every single year since then, it has to be a constant reminder of what it was on October 18th, 2007.
I hope so. I do hope it is a reminder every year. And I think it is,
Mm-hmm.
partially because I know he always gets birthday cards on his birthday from um, the people who follow him online,
Well,
which
that's nice. Everyone likes to get birthday cards, right?
it is. Yeah, it shows they're thinking of him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, that reminds him of the infamous night. I'm sure he tries to forget, but you can't.
No, no, absolutely not. So, for your viewing pleasure, we do have a photo today of perhaps what it would have looked like in court with Lorne while he is pursuing his lawsuit against NBC. So, imagine yourself if this was going to be a jury trial, going in for jury duty, and you're in the pool that has to march up to this particular courtroom. And they open the door, and everyone is standing watching as you parade in. And there's Lorne. He's standing there like a woodshop teacher, and in his sensible pants, and I'm sure his sensible shoes, and his button down short sleeve shirt, and his mustard colored clip on tie.
Ugliest tie I've ever seen.
I know.
He looks like a McDonald's manager. He's been described that way, and I think that is the best way to describe it. That shirt that he's wearing
Mm-hmm.
is it's something that old men wear, in my experience, at least. Like there's this weird flap on the back of it. I think it's called a fisherman's shirt.
Oh, the hook. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like there's like a flap on the back of the shirt, and then there's like a mesh panel underneath it or something. It's
Hmm.
something old men wear. I've never seen anyone under the age of 60 wear
Okay.
those kinds of shirts.
Interesting. Okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's and the one thing that he is going to have as well, no matter what, even when he's in the courtroom, there's no reason for him to have his headset, right? But he's gonna have it. It's gonna be stuck in his ear the
Well, it's
whole
to show
time.
how important he is, and it. I think he thinks it looks cool. It makes him look professional or important or
Yes,
something.
he's very busy. He doesn't have time to stop what he's doing to answer the phone.
Hmm.
So he's going to talk to you, but he's still going to keep doing what he needs to do. That's just the way that it is. Whether he's walking in the parking lot to go to his truck to go home from Walmart, or if he's just making coffee in the nude in his kitchen.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's going to be wearing it.
Yes.
So let's take a look at this case. So we're just going to read it to you guys. So just sit back and relax. You don't have to do anything. We're going to take care of all the work for you. As we look at what could be seen as the clash of the titans. You have Lorne. Lorne Armstrong is taking on NBC Universal. And I'm sure that they were very worried when they
Hmm.
received that over this complaint over at the Rockefeller Center building. I'm sure they were shaking.
Well, Lorne is the last one you want to fuck with when it comes to law.
That is
The
true.
last one. He studied. He didn't sit on his ass in prison, doing nothing, playing with his dink in his toes.
Okay.
He learned, he basically got a law degree without the degree. So watch out.
Yeah, absolutely. And it took him a little while to file this. This was filed on April 25th, 2011. So from the time that he was incarcerated up until in this time in 2011, he was buzzing along. He's writing his book, he's writing in his journal, he's writing to his mother incessantly. He's making phone calls, he's making friends,
Hmm.
trying to have his mother become friends with felons
Hmm.
as well. And he didn't have time. He didn't have time to worry about this. But then in April of 2011, he said, "Wait a minute. This isn't right. And I'm going to do something about it."
He
And
was
so he
gathering
is.
evidence. He was gathering evidence of their wrongdoing and looking up all the all everything he needed to talk about how his constitutional rights were violated. He was working day and night
Yeah,
on this lawsuit, and you can tell when you read it. He put a lot of thought into it.
you absolutely can tell. Yes. So this is titled Civil Rights Complaint to be Used by a Pro Se Prisoner. And of course, that prisoner is Lorne, and it's against NBC Universal. And he also checked a box that said no jury trial demand. So you can either demand a jury trial or not. And he said no. He said, "I don't do the jury thing. I'm going to file this and we're going right to the judge. I
Smart
don't
move.
want, yeah, I don't want a jury of my peers to see any of this."
Right. Oh, I wonder why.
I don't know. So, as far as the parties are concerned, Lorne was over at the Luther Luckett Correctional Complex in Kentucky, and the status of the plaintiff was convicted. So I'm sure, had a hard time checking that box. The only other option was pretrial detainee, and he couldn't do that because he'd already been to trial. And he's like, well, there's no innocent box over here. So I guess I have to do this one.
I know. I'm surprised he didn't write wrongfully convicted.
I know. Asterisk. Where's
The
the
little
footnotes?
arrow. Yeah.
Exactly. So then the defendant, NBC Universal, they are a television broadcaster at NBC Universal Inc., and the defendant is being sued. That's right. Okay. And of course, Lorne is going about this pro se because he can't afford a civil attorney. He's not going to get one. They don't appoint one to you for something like this.
Right.
So, he's going about it alone.
He's brave.
He's brave, yeah.
Brave and courageous, standing up for what is right and pointing out corruption.
Yeah. So what they're talking about in the next section is previous lawsuits. Have you begun other lawsuits in state or federal court dealing with the same facts involved in this action? And he said, yes. The next part said, if your answer to A is yes, describe the lawsuit in the space below. If there is more than one lawsuit, you must describe the additional lawsuits on another sheet of paper using the same outline. So the previous lawsuit is Lorne Armstrong versus the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Okay.
Yes. So this had to do with habeas corpus and effective assistance of counsel. That was still pending at the time when he filed this. And the approximate date of filing, October or November 2009, ? Not sure.
Unimportant.
Yeah,
around
unimportant. Then. Approximate date of disposition, unsure. I also did the same with my federal case, but was pro se and got turned down. It was at the same time I began my state case that I began my federal habeas corpus. So I don't know what his purpose is of saying all of this. He's just saying, I have all of these legal matters. I don't know the dates of when things were filed. I just know that they're happening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the next part here is where we get into the meat of the matter. The statement of claims. So the instruction is, state here the facts of your case. State how you believe your constitutional rights were violated. Describe how each defendant violated your rights. And set forth the dates on which each event took place. Do not make legal arguments or cite cases or statutes. However, identify the constitutional right or rights you allege was or were violated. If you intend to assert multiple claims, number and set forth each claim in separate paragraphs. Amanda James.
Yes.
Would you like to read number 1, injury to rights?
Well, yes, I would. Injury to rights. On October 18th, 2007, NBC held a sting in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and had lured Lorne Armstrong to the sting house after Mr. Armstrong had already told them, quote unquote, no. Armstrong had begun talking to Decoy on September 17th, 2007, in an adult chat room and tried to befriend her and protect her. They eventually convinced Armstrong to go to the sting house and was interviewed by Chris Hansen before being arrested by KBI, Kentucky Bureau of Investigation. The events from the sting has caused Armstrong to develop depression and EDD, emotional distress disorder, and was placed on Elavil, then Prozac. And while at KSR, Kentucky State Reformatory, was placed in a special living unit to help deal with the new illnesses. NBC's actions from the sting on defendant's birthday, October 18th, 2007, as planned by NBC, has caused these mental and emotional conditions Armstrong now has.
All right. So, injury to rights. So he said no. We've heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
We've definitely heard that. And then also that he was talking to quote unquote decoy in a quote unquote adult chat room.
Right.
He was there innocently trying to befriend and protect her.
Yeah, that's the crux of his argument, is that he was lured. He had good intentions, and he was essentially tricked and lured into going to the Sting house. He never even wanted to do it.
He didn't. And I also like how he spelled bureau. It's Barrow, Beareau. I like that. But then, of course, he's talking about the distress that he was under. You know, he tried to befriend this young girl who was in an adult chat room. She didn't belong there. He did, though. He was an adult. And of course, obviously, he's wanting to talk to other adults. He's not in a teeny bopper chat room.
Right.
So because of that, they dragged him to the Sting house when he had already told them no.
Mm-hmm.
And because of everything that happened with him being interviewed by Chris Hansen and then getting arrested by the KBI, he had depression and ED. No, I'm sorry, it's EDD.
It's Chris Hansen's fault he has ED.
That's right. Killed the little guy.
Yeah.
So he was then placed on medication and also in a special living unit.
Yeah, I caught that too. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of special living unit he was put in.
I don't know. I don't know what that would be. I mean, he's never said that he had to have, he had to be monitored. I don't know if they were monitoring him as far as...
I'm sorry, I cut out. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. No, it's okay. I don't know if it's something where he's being monitored more closely, kind of like a psych hold.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been something like that.
It could be, or he could have been put in like protective custody.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, we know he certainly was. But it makes sense that he's going to experience distress. You know, and we're going to see through NBC's argument back as well that he's the one who did it to himself.
Yeah.
You know, so this is what would be known as situational depression. Who wouldn't be depressed and terrified and anxious in jail?
Yeah, after they destroyed their own life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Jodi Arias saying she had PTSD, but it was from killing her victim.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So he's trying to say this here, and he's trying to put it on NBC, saying, if you didn't do this, then I wouldn't have depression or ED.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. So the second one that he is alleging here, media ride-along. On October 18th, 2007, the media, NBC, was at the Sting house in the police car as they took me to the sheriff's department, and at the search of my truck, recording without suspects' knowledge that they would be present before signing the consent to search form. They were not to have the media present in the police car on the way to the sheriff's department and at the search of the suspect's truck. Okay, I mean, it was all part of the investigation that they were doing.
Yeah, says who? They were not to do that because Lorne said so.
Right, exactly. He didn't like it.
Mm-mm.
So then the third one is the invasion of privacy. Amanda James, what does that one say?
Are we? Sorry, I don't know where we are.
It's okay. I'll
Oh,
take
I
it.
see. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
I see it now. Invasion of privacy. On October 18th, 2007, media NBC was present and recording the interior of suspect's truck during the search. They were also in suspect's face with the camera, with police consent during the search. Media was not supposed to be in suspect's face with the camera and was not supposed to be present and recording the interior of suspect's truck.
Yeah.
They
All
weren't
right.
supposed to.
They weren't supposed to. Exactly. They had that camera right in his face
Hmm.
with the police consent to do that.
But they weren't supposed to, even though
Mm.
the police were there and they consented, which means they probably could, which is why they did.
Hmm. I mean, what was going to make any kind of a difference? Like if Lorne would have known that the cameras were going to be there, what was it going to be like? No, you can't do that. He was
They
too busy
invaded his
crying.
they invaded his privacy by filming him committing a crime or attempting to commit a crime.
And also filming all of the things that he brought with him.
Yeah, that's an invasion of privacy, documenting evidence and broadcasting it. It's like he's never seen the show Cops. They can do that.
Right. And I'm so glad that they did too, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have seen the bracelet
Hmm.
or the variety pack of condoms that he brought. And
Hmm.
also, yeah. And what else did he have that they took pictures of? Was it the camera?
Maybe the camera.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing the camera, but I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
Whether or not it was included in the segment, I don't
Hmm.
remember.
It would have been funny if he did have a pizza, though. It would have been a small one for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Half eaten.
Right. Yeah. So the fourth one is unreasonable search and seizure. On October 10th, no, I'm sorry, October 18th, 2007, the police had NBC present in recording the search of suspect's truck without suspect's knowledge and without informing suspect that the media would be present and recording. Police were supposed to inform suspect of media being present before he signed the consent to search form, but they never did. So right here, Lorne is stating the claims, and then he has to make an argument for them. So that's going to be coming up in a little bit. So right now, he's just stating, here are the rights that I'm saying that they violated.
Hmm. Okay.
Um, so that one was much the same, that they weren't supposed to be there. And then number 5, overly intruding into law enforcement operation. On October 18th, 2007, NBC persuaded Bowling Green Police Department, or KBI, Kentucky Bureau of Investigation, to let them become active participants in the Bowling Green, Kentucky sting operation by letting Chris Hansen interview suspect before police arrested and interviewed, and also to assist in getting footage for TV show To Catch a Predator. Media NBC was present for commercial programming only. So Lorne has a real problem with this. Not only because it's violating what he believes is one of his rights, but also because they weren't there for the right reasons. They were there for making money. So is Chris Hansen. And NBC was, standing outside of the Bowling Green Police Department, just begging and waiting. Please, please let us be a part of this investigation. That's what they were doing. And they broke because NBC is a huge corporation and they have a
Hmm.
lot of money.
Yeah, it's so that argument is so interesting. They were there to make money. Every organization in the world pretty much exists to make money.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't change the fact. It would be interesting um, to know what he would have said if it wasn't for profit. And I mean, which nearly everything is, like I said. But it's also interesting that he thought a judge would look at that and say, Mr. Armstrong, you're right. They was making money.
I
They don't
know.
care about the kids.
No. Nope. That should have been something that was conducted locally by the Bowling Green Police Department, and that's it. Maybe
Privately.
privately, maybe a little mention in the newspaper, but certainly not photos, not portions of the chat log. No one was to know anything because he wasn't convicted yet, and that's not fair.
Hmm.
Yeah, right.
That's true. I mean, if a maniac runs down the street chopping people's heads off with an axe, the
Mhm.
news definitely doesn't cover it until he's convicted.
True.
Everybody
Yeah,
knows that. They're not supposed to.
right. Everyone knows that. So, number 6, zones of privacy. On October 18th, 2007, while Lorne Armstrong was arrested, handcuffed, and in the police car crying, no, he didn't say crying, but that's what he was doing. NBC Media was also in the car recording him on camera. Also, NBC camera was in Armstrong's face during the search of his truck to the point that the camera almost touched his face.
Oh my God.
Media was not supposed to be as close to suspect as they were. You stand back. Don't you know who I am? I am the suspect.
It's assault is what it is. It almost touched his face.
It did.
That alone is worth a good $10 million.
Yes.
You can't
That's,
touch.
yeah, you cannot touch somebody's face with a camera or even get close to it. Don't you
That is
dare.
invading their zone of privacy for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. They were getting all up in his no-no space.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they were doing.
Back
Yeah.
off. He already made this point.
Yeah.
He's
There's
really hammering it home. They
yes.
filmed me in the car. They weren't supposed to.
I know. No, there's a lot of redundancy in here. But it's funny to see all of this because number one, it's all written out.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how many times he had to rewrite it.
Yeah, I can imagine.
For all the
Probably.
mistakes and stuff.
I also like how he keeps switching back and forth from first person to third person.
Yes.
He'll say, Mr. Armstrong was in the back of the police truck and they wasn't supposed to be filming me. Or suspect.
I know. Suspect. Yeah. Predator would have been more appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, he's not going to say that. So I remember from the footage when they're walking him probably to the sheriff's car and he's turning his head.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that so much. So imagine him having his, he's standing there, he's handcuffed, and the cameras are trying to get in his face so badly. And you know that they were.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to get those shots. And he's like bobbing and weaving. And he had mentioned that too one time in a call where he had to like put his head down really low and trying to get away from them.
Yeah. Didn't he mention as well that he was basically trying to hide behind the police officer?
Yes.
And the officer was like, stand up straight. Stand up straight, look ahead. That might be in the lawsuit actually, or one of them, that they would not let him hide behind them. And that is against the Constitution as well.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny to me. He's trying to, and I love too when they were walking him in to take his mug shot and he puts his hands up in front of his face and he just shakes them. He like kind of like he doesn't know what to do. He's like, you people are just like in my face. He didn't handle it like Schumacher did. Like, oh, NBC again. Hey guys, how you doing?
Yeah, he had confidence. Y'all want an interview?
No, he was ready to talk. Yeah. But it is funny. Just how he is with the cameras. I mean, nobody would want that, right? No one's gonna want to have a camera in their face, the mics, those big mics that they have with them and everything, trying to capture everything. Remember when Dustin was in his interrogation and right before the agent walked in, he was just sitting there and they had another guy, watching him. But they allowed the cameras in and they got like right down in there. Oh my gosh, it was really, really funny.
That's when you just sit still. Like you can put your head down, but not to the point
Yeah,
where you're bent over. They want you to see them bobbing around and crying
of
and
course.
making a scene. Just shut your mouth,
Hmm.
keep your head down, look down, get in the police car, keep your mouth shut, and hope you didn't give them anything interesting enough to feature heavily on the show.
Yeah, yeah. So the next one, number 7, harassment. This is going to be a big one. So Amanda James, what is that one?
Harassment. On unknown date to suspect, but after October 18th, 2007, NBC Dateline put a link on their website to Perverted Justice's website so the public could see the conversation between suspect and decoy. The conversation has yet to be removed. Armstrong is being harassed in this manner.
Well, how are you being harassed exactly?
That's a good question. He was in prison. Oh,
Right.
he's saying it's harassment just that they published the conversation.
Yes.
The, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you could argue that.
I don't know. We'll see.
That should be kept private. He thinks that should have been kept private. And
Oh,
this, at
yes.
this point, he already pled guilty. So he can't even, use the whole, oh, well, I hadn't been convicted yet, so they shouldn't have made that public. At this point, he's convicted. But even then, that's just not how it works when people commit crimes.
Right. And it also says an unknown date. So he has no idea when it happened.
Right, exactly. It could, for all he knows, it could have been after he was convicted. It probably wasn't, but it could have been.
So what he's saying here basically is that NBC is disgusting.
Hmm.
That's it. That's what he's saying.
And perverted justice. They made $200,000 an episode
I know.
and didn't respect his privacy while committing a crime.
Awful.
Mhm.
So, number 8, intentional disclosure of private facts. I wonder if this means he's going to talk about his penis pictures.
Let's see.
On a date plaintiff does not recall, but 2 or 3 months after October 18th, 2007, NBC aired the segment of To Catch a Predator from the Bowling Green, Kentucky sting. On that statement, NBC disclosed parts of conversation between suspect and decoy. The conversation was part of the suspect's criminal discovery and was supposed to be confidential information. Suspect had not been convicted of anything at the time. This violated suspect's confidential right to confidentiality.
Talk about redundant.
That right is also confidential. So, how did you know about it?
Yeah, exactly. Somebody broke that confidentiality. No one can be trusted.
No one, not even the Constitution. Shut it all down.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is actually similar to the argument that Sarah Boone was making about the suitcase videos being on the media, and also the interrogation, the 911, all of her stuff,
Hmm.
that makes her look really bad was out there, and it's been out there for years. But she had a problem with that and she tried to have that suppressed, which didn't work. But she tried to have that suppressed, saying that it was going to taint the jury pool.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as this is concerned, I mean, this is in 2011. He's been in prison almost his entire term.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get out the following year. So now he's arguing that that somehow putting the conversation out there was going to ruin discovery. Truly, though, this isn't something like a Sarah Boone case or a Jodi Arias case or Chris Watts or something that was all over the place and everybody was going to know.
No.
I think that it's very likely that you would have had a lot of people who wouldn't even know who he was, wouldn't have been seeking anything out. It's not as if it was being paraded around. I mean, it would have been by us. I mean, we're not going to lie about that. But it wasn't being paraded around to the point where it was going to cause an issue for him. And he didn't even go to trial.
No, right. He took the plea. At this point, he's just saying, I should get money for this.
Yes.
They messed up.
Mm-hmm.
It's all on technicalities. You messed this up, so I should get paid for it, or the case should get thrown out, which is what he said in the past as well. But
yes,
the point of this lawsuit is to get NBC to pay up.
Exactly. Yeah. All of this should have been kept private is what Lorne is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So then number 9, intentional intrusion on right to be left alone. What? What does that say, Amanda James?
Let me.
It's at the top.
Oh, I see. Intentional intrusion on right to be left alone. Between September 17th, 2007 and October 18th, 2007, suspect had told Decoy, quote unquote, no when she asked him about meeting in person. Decoy knew suspect's vulnerability and continued to play on his emotions and pressure him to go to the Sting House. If not for the greed of NBC wanting ratings and perverted justice being paid by NBC, the plaintiff would never have been caught up in the sting. Suspect/plaintiff had already told Decoy no to the meeting until she was 18 years of age. There was no need for Decoy to continue pressuring him to meet.
Wow.
So that violated his right to be left alone?
Yeah. You don't think so?
I don't think so. I thought he meant he had the right to be left alone while he was committing a crime. The police need to leave you alone while even when you're committing crimes. That's a right we all have, just to be left alone.
Yeah.
What fascinates me about that is he made that point an argument. He has the chat. First of all, he should remember the chat log. He wrote it.
He does.
But he has it in his discovery. He should know that is not what happened at all. The Decoy did not pressure him to meet. He never said no. He just made that up in his head and thought he could convince himself of it, so he should be able to convince a judge of it, right?
Right.
Maybe he thought the judge wouldn't bother to read the chat log and just take him at his word.
I don't know. I don't know what chat log he thinks is out there. He has to know that he never said no. He has to know that she never convinced him or pressured him or begged him to go and see her. Never, not one single time. It was always him.
Always, yeah. He made all the plans. He did all of it.
He did.
Maybe it's like when he brought up that he told her that he could go to jail. Early on in the conversation, I think he told her he could go to jail if they were caught with him, and if they met and he was caught. That doesn't you know, translate to no, I'm not coming to see you until you're 18. It translates to we have to be very careful about meeting before you're 18, which he said, it, quite word for word, pretty much.
Yeah. In the phone call, we have to
Hmm.
be careful about doing this.
Yes. I know, exactly.
And
We
then,
have to be like really careful about doing this. It's in his voice
yes,
on the phone
I
call.
know, I know. But it was with the quote unquote decoy. So I guess that's not supposed to count for anything.
I
And then,
guess.
of course, we have the entire MySpace situation where he wanted to talk over there
Hmm.
so that they wouldn't get caught.
Right.
So I
Delete your
suppose,
archives.
yeah, delete your archives. All of that was just him trying to protect his right to be left alone,
I guess.
according to this. Oh my gosh. Same Lorne, different day, you know?
I know. I mean, we've heard all this a million times over the years, but it still is just so shocking to me that he is going to claim that completely contrary to the direct evidence that he himself typed to that decoy. The fact that he wouldn't go back and actually read through his chat log and try to find specific places that he could try to turn it to his advantage or try to spin it in some ways. No, he just in general said, "Yeah, I told her no. I already told her no many times. It's in there. I
Right.
promise."
Him saying the word no, no matter what the context, is what he's wanting to make his point.
Right, basically, the judge is going to take a glance at the document and say, "Well, there is the word no, the letters N-O. I see them there.
Yep.
You're right. $80 million for you."
Yeah, I know, exactly. So 10, violating journalistic code of ethics. I almost said evidence. I'm caught up on the evidence.
Mm.
On October 18th, 2007, NBC showed no regard for any of the journalistic code of ethics by producing the television show To Catch a Predator. These code of ethics were made to help keep an honorable and respectable system within journalism. By violating these codes, a journalist also violates a person's constitutional rights to privacy.
Obviously. Clearly.
Obviously. Trash TV is what they were making.
I want to know how they violated the code of ethics because Lauren was vulnerable and
Yes.
they used dishonest tactics to get their story. Dishonest as
Yes.
far as she told me she was 13, but she weren't really 13. That's dishonorable
Yes.
and not respectable.
Correct. See, you're getting it.
Yeah.
The more we go along with this, I feel like you're going over to his side. So, number 11, deliberate indifference. On October 18th, 2007, NBC persuaded police to engage in arrest tactics for dramatic effect to make sensational television footage in a manner that broadcaster knew would humiliate suspect being arrested. Suspect's rights were violated by turning an arrest into a staged performance for television entertainment.
It wasn't staged though.
It
It was
wasn't staged. Do you think, though, that when they said, get on the ground, get down with guns pointed at him, do you think that that was a little bit too much?
I think it was perfect.
I think it's perfect too. And
I think
I
it's great.
and I don't think that somehow is making it sensational. I think that they do that all the time. They have to establish a level of authority
And control.
to
Yeah.
control the situation, because you have, who knows what Lord, he had his sneakers on.
Right.
He could have booked it. He played
Hmm.
basketball when he was in 6th grade. You have no idea how fast he is.
Or
You
how much
know,
stamina he has. Exactly.
stamina. Yes, he would have run them exhausted.
Well, from the police officer's perspective, you're right. They do have to control the suspects and get them on the ground immediately. They don't know what we know. He's a big puss and he's not going to do anything
Yeah.
but cry. But they don't know that.
Right.
This is a life ruining thing that he just got caught doing with
Hmm.
cameras in his face. Some people are going to react crazy.
Sure, absolutely. I mean, they didn't have a chance to search him. He's
Hmm.
just coming out of the house. They don't know what he has on them. They don't know what
Exactly.
he can do to them or to himself. They have no idea.
Hmm.
So, yeah, they did have to do what they had to do, and they did it everywhere.
Right.
It wasn't just for that. We didn't see anybody in a ghillie suit, though, over there in
Unfortunately.
Bowling Green, I know, up in the tree.
Wouldn't that scare the shit out of you?
I would absolutely. Oh my God, that bush is coming at me. I would scream and probably try to run. I would definitely get tased.
Right. Exactly. Be Michael Patterson all over again.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And they'd have to guess who was that? Was that Michael Patterson or Tiffany or AJ?
It is
Oh
a
gosh.
shame that Lorne complied, though, and dropped down on the
Oh.
ground so quickly and his hat fall off. I mean, that's great. But it's a shame that he didn't try to run back in the house like Michael Patterson.
I know. I know. Or at least if he just like froze and stood there, they had to throw him on the ground. That would have
Tackle
been
him.
funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there would have been like five of them doing it.
Who did they
Too.
do that to where they all tackled when he stood there?
Oh my gosh. I
And
can't think.
he like literally tripped and fell to the ground. Oh shit. It was an
Um,
older one.
oh, Michael Willis,
That I think it was.
the guy
Yeah.
who like went backwards down the stairs and almost fell
Yes,
off. Yeah.
he fell down the stairs, but then one of them got like tackled by the
Lee
police.
Greer.
Oh, was it Lee Greer? He didn't like react quick enough and get on the ground, so they all just attacked.
Oh, Lord.
Oh Lord.
And the camera is right in his
Uh,
face. Do you think he wrote a lawsuit about that?
he should have. If
He
he
should
had been
have.
in jail with Lauren, he would have.
Yes, because
They're
Michael
gonna.
Patterson did have a lawsuit as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Justice for all. The Lorne
Uh,
Armstrong story. That should have been the name of his book.
yeah, I know. He's like Braveheart. He's going to lead everybody.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, and number 12, negligence. Amanda James, please.
On October 18th, 2007, NBC neglected all the civil rights violations that the show performed from the lawsuit by the sister of a victim of NBC's that committed suicide because of To Catch a Predator show. NBC showed no care for the violations and performed another show in Bowling Green, Kentucky. This violated constitutional rights of the new victims preyed upon by neglecting to care about civil rights. The victims.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. The
Yeah.
new victims preyed upon.
Mm-hmm. With that is, oh my God. The show is called To Catch a Predator because these dudes were preying on actual innocent children. But Lauren truly thinks he's a victim.
He does. I know. Wow. The new victims preyed upon.
Hmm. I'm sure that went over really well with the judge. I'm sure they
Right.
loved reading Lauren calling himself and all the other perverts caught in the sting victims, victims of
Yeah.
the justice system and NBC.
And of course, the DA who shot himself was a victim of NBC's as well. It had nothing to do with what he was doing or what
Hmm.
he was up to.
No, he was practically executed. And that's what he kind of said to Casey. to the newest Casey, case 3, he tried to bring up Lewis Conrad as an example of why NBC and perverted justice were fucked up and broke the law and, corrupt and horrible. And he talked about the DA and how he, has constitutional rights, and everybody has the right to a fair trial. They're presumed innocent until guilty and all that. They didn't execute the man. He killed himself.
Right.
All they did, he exposed him. They exposed him for his crimes. He chose that.
Right,
But Lorne acts
exactly.
like they went in there, with their snipers and took him out.
Right. By them showing up, they put so much pressure on him that he had nothing else to do except for to finish it. That's the
Yeah,
way
because he
that he's
knew.
looking at it. Of course he knew.
Because he
Of
knew
course he
what his
knew.
life was.
I'm sure that he prosecuted cases like this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
he knew. Absolutely, he did. But it's so silly to say that he's a victim of NBC or that any of the predators are victims. But then again, Lorne also does turn an interesting corner when he says that, the other guys have been caught doing that before. Like they deserved to be on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly that's going to make him feel better because he wants to be different. He
Right.
wants to be like that outlier that just got caught up in the net, like the bycatch,
Mm-hmm.
But doesn't he also say that he wants to donate money to resume the show?
Well, now he does. He's come a long way.
Oh.
He's come a really long way from his first emails with Casey, the newest Casey, where he's
Mhm.
trying to convince her that perverted justice and NBC are corrupt and, the sting was terrible and something they should be deeply ashamed of, to, I don't even know how, within weeks, he told her that he watched the show. He watched their segment of the show, and it bothered him so much seeing those other guys come chase after Casey. So he would like to get the show up and going again to catch more predators.
Was he jealous?
I think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have you heard that call?
I'm sure that I have. I just can't recall it right
It's the
now.
newest one. It's the
Okay.
newest. Yeah, it was just put up not long ago. Yeah, he had to call Casey to tell her something really important, and that was his important message that
Oh,
yeah,
that's
he'd
right.
watched the show and it bothered him. It just really bothered him seeing all those other guys. He didn't mention how he felt watching himself go after this girl who he believed was 13 years old at the time. But all the other guys, it needs to be stopped. We can't let that happen to innocent decoys anymore.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and of course that was something he had to get her on the phone to say.
Yeah, and he said he wanted to get the show going again.
Wow. Well, maybe he would have had that chance if he would have gotten this money. So let's talk about the money.
Okay.
The reason why we're here. Let's talk about this section of relief. State exactly what you want the court to do for you. If you seek relief which affects the fact or duration of your imprisonment, for example, release from illegal detention, restoration of good time, expungement of records, release on parole, you must file your claim under 28 U.S.C. So the plaintiff wants the court to award money damages in the amount of $40 million.
That's reasonable. I think that sounds about right
Mm-hmm.
for having your confidential right to confidentiality broken.
Right, exactly.
And that's not how you spell 40. You
No, it
spelled it like
isn't.
a dummy.
So that money is what's supposed to make Lorne whole again. Not an
Right.
a-hole, but whole.
That will start to repair some of the damage that was done by NBC.
Yeah, absolutely. He also wants them to grant injunctive relief by taking all information about Armstrong off their website and TV. Take all of it off. Scrub the internet and the TV with all mention of Armstrong, all images and mention.
Okay.
Okay. It's another thing. He doesn't want us to see him walk out that door. Lorne, where'd you go? They scrubbed you from the website.
Respect his right to privacy, finally.
Right. Yeah. And then the next part, award punitive damages in the amount of $40 million. You make NBC pay because they need to be punished.
Right. Another 40 mil.
Yeah, this is the sprinkling on the top of the original 40 million to make me whole. But now you got to get them. Teach them a lesson that they are not going to do this again. So $80 million.
$80 million. There are people who have been like wrongfully convicted of crimes who spend decades in prison. And then they're eventually, it's found that there was some corruption or coercion or something that led to their arrest and conviction, and they shouldn't have been arrested. They get released. They don't get anywhere near $80 million for that.
No, because usually they're suing, the county or the city or the state, whoever convicted them. And he's going after a corporation.
Right, that's true. I mean, I would love to know how he came to that figure.
I would too. He has fascinating math.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Maybe he was calculating the amount of money that he would have been charging if he were on a septic job for every hour of all the years he spent in prison for 24 hours a day, and then he added that all up, and that came to 40 million, and then he tacked on the additional 40 million just to teach NBC a lesson.
Correct. Yeah. So if he got the right jobs, is what you're saying?
Basically, yeah. If he got the right jobs, he would have made $40 million in that time that he was incarcerated. And don't forget about his country music career. If they hadn't put him on, if they hadn't lured him to the Sting House to begin with, and they hadn't televised it and humiliated him and made him go on Prozac, he could have been a country music legend by that time. So that's where that $40 million. I wonder if that's really how he came to that number.
I think that is how he came to that number. Yes. Yes, because that country music career is so real to him. It's not this idiot dream that we all know that it is, but it is legit as far as he's concerned. So yeah, you're absolutely right. That is country music money right there.
It also lost him his marriage to Miranda Lambert.
That is true, because if he wasn't caught, he could have had a shot with that hot ticket.
Right. And now she's married to someone else.
Right. And do yourself a favor and look up that guy and compare him to the one that you see on your screen right now and see, who do you think would win?
I'll have to take a look.
You have to take a look, definitely. Okay, so the next section is statement of facts. Amanda James, would you like to tell us all about the statement of facts?
Yes. Suspect began conversing with the Dateline decoy on September 17th, 2007. At the beginning of their online chat, suspect had only good intentions and had warned the decoy, who stated she was 13 years old and from Bowling Green, Kentucky, of the dangers on the internet. He had told her to never give out any of her personal information, such as phone number, address, real name, or the school she attends, to anyone on the internet. The decoy had initiated the sex talk by asking suspect what a pervert was. Suspect answered her question, and decoy continued to keep suspect on sexual topics. Decoy had asked suspect if they would ever be able to meet in real life, and suspect had told her not until she turned 18 years of age. Suspect had never had any intention to meet her or talk any sexual talk with her. Suspect had gone into an adult chat room and never planned on meeting an underage girl. Okay. When suspect would show an attitude of not wanting to meet after decoy had talked him into it, decoy would use guilt trips on suspect to make him feel bad. Decoy knew that suspect had just moved to Nashville, Tennessee from Maine because of mental and financial use and abuse from family and friends and needed a new start. Decoy realized suspect was very vulnerable and used this to get him to go to the Sing House on October 18th, 2007, suspect's birthday, as planned by Dateline to intentionally cause suspect to be more distraught.
Wow, a lot of bullshit in here.
Yeah,
This
that's
is supposed to be statement of facts.
and the thing that kills me is the actual facts are just on a sheet of paper in Lorne's cell that he can pick up and see that the court has access to, the public has access to, the media. His statement completely contradicts the fact. I mean, there are some parts that are true. Yeah, he did tell the decoy, don't give out your name, your phone number, your address, blah, 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 except to me.
Right, because immediately after that, didn't he say that he's going to have to know where she is?
Probably. I can't even remember. But yeah, yeah, he also told her very early in the conversation not to have sex until she's ready. Don't you do any of this with a boy until you're ready to, okay? 4 minutes later, he's talking about having sex with her, about being in love with her.
I know. And he got all turned on by her asking what a pervert was. He's like,
Yeah,
"Yeah, you want to hear about perverts? I'll show you pervert."
she, that's not even true though. To my
Right.
memory, he said, have you ever heard anything in here that made you say, wow?
Yes.
And she said, "What do you mean?" And then he initiated the sexual conversation.
Of course.
1000%. Perverted justice knew they couldn't, they never did that. They always
Right.
let the predator lead with all of that.
Mhm. Yeah, and that entire chat log was really expertly done in that regard.
Mhm.
It didn't give him anything really. I mean, very minimal responses. He was doing it all, and that's exactly what they needed. And that's why it was so perfect. It makes it so crazy that he will say these things, especially after being in there for so many years.
Mhm.
And we know at this point he still hasn't accepted what he's done. He'll turn it into he won't accept what happened, but in reality, it's what he did. So he thinks that he got caught up in something. He got caught up in the sting. And he was all turned around and his head was all messed up. And because of that, he was vulnerable in NBC. And this 13-year-old decoy was able to turn him around so that he lost his mind and that allowed him to do what he did. That's
Mhm.
not the real Lorne Armstrong. Well, we know that it is. It is him. But it's so crazy that even with him being in there, he was so full of denial. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that because he's also surrounded by people like him, that's probably what those, when they were talking about their cases or whatever, it's all the same. They all think that they're victims.
Mhm.
You know, Michael Patterson thought he was a victim too because he was getting a divorce.
Yeah, he was vulnerable. They were vulnerable.
Right.
And those decoys lured them. They knew they were vulnerable. That's another funny thing. Lorne insists that they knew he was vulnerable and he preyed on it. They preyed on it. How would they know that? He never went into detail. He just told the decoy his siblings were idiots or something. But it was always
Exactly.
followed by an LOL.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't talk about having a hard time at all, really.
Mm-mm.
He was having a great time. If he wanted to go out and get a job, he went out and he got a job. No big deal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
hey, you know what? I don't have a bed. I don't need one. This is comfortable on the floor. I'm going out with my friends. This is fun. I'm going to be a country music star, so I go out karaokeing. And it's all great. And he's having a great time and he's um, doing what he loves. He's standing and sitting in front of his computer masturbating to her.
And he
Um,
has the nerve to say, when suspect would show an attitude of not wanting to meet after decoy had talked him into it, decoy would use guilt trips on suspect to make him feel bad. When did she talk you into it? First of all, I want to see,
mhm.
I want you to highlight that.
Yeah.
That I know people get annoyed when people sort of, what's the phrase, Monday morning quarterback,
Hmm.
like the catfish. And I don't mean to do that, but I would have loved to see him confronted with all of this. Like, let's sit down, pull out your chat log. I've got the lawsuit pulled up here. Show me where this happened. Show it to me.
Yeah, he well, he struggles with that.
Yeah.
That's the
I don't want to talk
thing.
about that no more.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. He'll just get frustrated if he can't find something right away. He
Hmm.
knows that it's not in there. He knows that who he's talking to in regard to a catfish is going to know more. Because obviously, they have the chat log, they know it, they're throwing it in his face.
Yeah.
And he has no answer to any of it. And he'll just say, okay, okay, okay. No, 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 I'm
Hmm.
done. You know? So this is all bullshit. And certainly if he were to be called down on it and go through the lawsuit, which would be very, very interesting,
Hmm.
um, it would be great to hear what his responses would be. Because I think it would be very similar to even saying, show me where you said no.
Hmm.
You know, and it was never any answer that he wanted. You know, he couldn't
Yeah.
find any evidence of him doing that. I mean, the only times that Kayla brought up that I can recall was when he quit his job and he wasn't
Hmm.
going to have money to go and visit her. And oh, you're going to have to move back to Maine if you don't get this job. Remember when he was begging
Hmm.
her to wake him
Wake
up?
him up. Yeah.
Yeah. But that wasn't, it's not in the way that he's saying that it is.
No, and he led with that. He's the one who said, if I don't get this job, I won't be able to pay my rent. And I know you don't want me to be away from you.
Yeah,
She was
exactly.
just repeating what he said. What's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating is that he didn't think that NBC's lawyers, if this actually made it anywhere, that the best lawyers in the world, NBC can afford the best. I'm sure they have the best. They're not going to pick this apart.
Yeah, I do feel like he's just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what's
Hmm.
going to stick. And I think that he does think that he can convince the judge, I'm a victim here. Like they did this to me. If they didn't start talking sexy, why do they have to put a sexy decoy out there?
Yeah.
To get me all horned up. I couldn't think straight.
He literally
Um,
said he was lured.
mhm.
He was lured there. He was
Yes.
lured by. that image and voice of a child without even realizing what he
What
said.
he's saying, I know. I know. So let's see what else. Once a suspect was at the Sting house, before driving in, he drove past a couple times because of reluctance to go there. On one drive past, the decoy was outside the house waving down the suspect. A suspect gave in and drove in the yard. He said, "Oh, all right, Kayla, you're practically begging me to come and see you. So
He
I guess
told
I
her to
will."
be outside waiting for him.
He did. He did. So I think that there's a couple of reasons why he would have driven by. Number one, he could have not really been able to see maybe the house number, so we have to remember he didn't have GPS. So
Right.
he's just going by directions. And then also to make sure that he's not just whipping into somebody's driveway and he's not really sure what's going on in there. Is there a chance that maybe he's going to see somebody in a window, or
Right.
is there a car parked on the other side of the house that he can't see, or something like that? So he's going to stake it out. He wanted to stake out the place the weekend before.
Yeah, because he knew he was doing something highly illegal.
Uh-huh. Yeah, he wanted to find a place to hide his truck. So, yeah, I mean, I can completely get logically why he's not just going to want to pull right in there as if he belongs there.
Right, but he's trying to paint it like he was having this great, conflict with the morality of the situation inside his head. And I don't even want to go, but oh no, she's waving me down. I have to go now.
I know. Yeah. So once the suspect was out of his truck, decoy lured suspect into the house and got him to sit in a recliner. Not long after sitting, Chris Hansen appeared and began interviewing suspect. Suspect had never seen Chris Hansen before and had never watched To Catch a Predator, and had told Chris Hansen as much. Suspect had thought that Chris Hansen was a policeman until informed otherwise by Hansen. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, why is that even at all relevant, whether or not he knew who Chris Hansen was?
I know, it doesn't matter.
No, he saw there was an adult in the room who wasn't supposed to be there, and he was busted.
Yeah. After getting up to leave, suspect walked to the front door and opened it to leave, but was greeted by more than 5 officers with tasers and/or guns drawn and pointed at him, and was instructed to lie face down on the ground, which was all caught by the cameras cluttering around. Once the suspect's hands were cuffed behind his back, officers led suspect to the driveway where Dateline cameramen instructed police where to stand with suspect while waiting for the police vehicle to be brought from down the street. When police vehicle arrived, suspect was put in the back seat on the driver's side to be filmed more by the Dateline camera. They then left the Sting house and met another vehicle down the street where a camera woman, oh, he must have liked that, from Dateline switched vehicles to the vehicle carrying suspect because she obviously wanted him.
Obviously.
She got in on the front passenger side and turned around in the seat and began filming suspect with a small handheld camcorder. Suspect put his head on the back of the front seat to avoid being filmed, but was ordered by officer to sit up straight. This was for the purpose of filming.
Duh.
Obviously. Once suspect arrived at the sheriff's department, there were more television cameras there that followed as suspect was brought inside. Suspect was then put in the interview room where he was interviewed by the police. After the interview ended and suspect had signed the consent to search form, he was left alone inside the interview room for 10 to 15 minutes while police stepped outside the room to discuss strategy with Dateline camera crew. How do you know what they were doing? You were sobbing.
And he doesn't know why the police stepped out. They will often step out during interrogation because, the suspect's left alone in there. They're feeling panicky. They can get them to talk more, when they come back in, sometimes he has no idea why. Like they just sinisterly stepped out and like they're twisting their hand, rubbing their hands together saying,
Yes.
let's discuss strategy. How can we hit him in the face with a camera and get away with it?
Exactly. They were in there talking to Lorne, and Chris Hansen knocks on the door and is like, he just like moves his head, like suggests to come outside.
Mhm.
To the officer, like, okay, Lauren, hang on a second.
Yeah, I gotta go discuss strategy with Chris over here.
I know. I know. When the police came back in, they handcuffed a suspect once again with hands behind his back and led him outside in the parking lot of the sheriff's department with the Dateline camera crew tagging along to watch the search of his truck. Once there, 2 police officers conducted the search of the suspect's truck with the Dateline camera crew, and one officer stood back about 20 feet or so with suspect and another cameraman that Dateline to watch the search. Suspect was not expecting camera crew to be involved in the search of his truck, and also was able to see the search of his truck because Dateline cameraman was filming suspect with a bright light from the camera in suspect's face. Suspect placed himself behind the police officer to avoid being filmed, but police officer was instructed by the cameraman to place suspect to the side of him so cameraman could film suspect. Suspect then tried desperately to hide from the cameraman by turning his head from side to side and even bent as far as he could forward. But cameraman followed his every move, keeping the camera right in suspect's face and almost touching his face with the camera. So there we go with him trying to hide. They wouldn't do it. There was going to be a camera in his face no matter what. But you know what the thing is, though? Okay, they filmed it, but where's that footage? No one's ever seen it.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the big deal?
They shouldn't have been filming. The people who were there to film, that was their whole job. They shouldn't have been filming him. Why? Because it violates his right to be left alone.
His confidential right?
I guess that's what he's saying. Is the cameras never should have been there.
They shouldn't have been there, right? That is what he's saying. That they shouldn't have been following everything that was happening.
And that
Invasion
thing
of
about
privacy.
basically, yeah, that thing about he was unable to see the search of his truck happening because they had a bright light in his face. Do people have a right to watch police search their vehicle? I don't think so.
I thought that when they were talking to them about signing that consent form, I thought they were asking them if they wanted to be present when it happened.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I don't know how it works. I wouldn't expect if you give consent to search your vehicle, they're going to get it anyway. They would just have to get a warrant to search it, which I'm sure they very easily could.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think that they're allowed to do it without you don't have the automatic right to stand there and supervise or watch them search it.
No, that's true. That's true. I just thought that I had heard them say that.
Maybe.
So someone correct us, please. When police were finished with the search, they took suspect to the Warren County Jail, and camera crew followed them inside the jail hall until they were instructed to not go any further. 2 or 3 months later, the To Catch a Predator segment aired from the Sting in Bowling Green, Kentucky. The suspect had not even had a chance at a fair trial. Yet the program was allowed to be aired, and just by the name of the show alone, suspect knew that he would not get a fair trial and knew that the public would always see him as a sexual predator, thus ruining his childhood dream of becoming a country music star and his reputation of being a loving, caring, hardworking, law-abiding citizen of the United States because of the worldwide viewing of the show.
Wow.
Wow.
They ruined his reputation.
They ruined
by
it.
exposing what he did. Just by showing what he did, because they never said, they didn't go on To Catch a Predator and say, these men have been convicted. These men are like, they just said this was the conversation they had with the decoy,
Mm-hmm.
and these are the men at the house. Here's what they had to say for themselves when we confronted them.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. How did
They
you get to
just
the house
accept.
then? If you're
Right.
not right.
Because the pub Lauren didn't have the chance to tell the public his side of the story. He actually did. Chris asked him, "What happened here? What are
Mm-hmm.
you doing here?" He had the opportunity to tell whatever mitigating factors he thought he had. It just makes no sense. They ruined his reputation and his dream of becoming a country music star.
And he said that he wouldn't get a fair trial. That's not the reason why he didn't go to trial.
Right, I know. Isn't that a convenient excuse for him, though?
It's very convenient that in 2011 he's talking about the fairness of his trial that he didn't have because he took a plea deal.
Hmm.
Yeah. These libel, slanderous, and defamatory accusations have caused great mental and emotional problems that have led to depression and emotional distress disorder, so far as to put suspect on Elavil and then Prozac while in county jail. After 4 or 5 months, suspect believed he could handle not taking Prozac, but had to be put back on it approximately a year later while at the Kentucky State Reformatory and had to be moved into a special unit to help deal with the illnesses. Since he's been at Luther Luckett Correctional Complex, suspect has stopped taking Prozac again after about a year, and through the help of books has taught himself to meditate to help deal with his new illnesses of depression and EDD. Suspect states that he still has some tough times now and then, but for the most part, the meditation is working. Suspect also states that he has never had any emotional problems in his life to this extent until NBC Datelines to Catch a Predator sting that has ever caused him to have to take Prozac, Elavil, or any other psychiatric drug. So he's better.
Well, he's self-taught. Yeah, he's a strong man. He's a
Yeah.
strong human being. He read some books. He taught himself to overcome that with meditation,
I would
in
love to know these
fact.
books. Didn't he read Scientology,
Yeah.
Dianetics? Mm.
Yes, he says he did.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't because I've never read it myself. I'm sure it doesn't make sense though.
Right. I'm yeah, Lorne is not an intellectual. He's not, what the only books I heard him reference reading at all in letters to his mother in prison were like Mountain Man Jack or something. That's what they're called. And they sound to me like some old school kind of like young adult adventure
Uh-huh.
stories.
Yeah, like the Hardy
That's
Boys or something
right.
like that.
That's the kind of shit Lauren was reading. Nice
Mm-hmm.
try. But he's such a victim. He was so victimized by these libelous and slanderous defamatory statements. Where?
I
It-
know. Yeah.
They're not lies. All they did was show what he said
Mm-hmm.
to the decoy and what he did and said at the Sting House. That's all. There were no lies.
I know. Well, let's see what else he has to say. Amanda James.
Suspect has done an extreme amount of mental and emotional suffering due to the disgusting, ruthless, uncaring, grotesque, and degrading actions by Dateline, Perverted Justice, and the Bowling Green, Kentucky Police Department. Suspect states that he will never have the life that he once had again and will constantly wonder when passing someone on the street or when meeting someone new if he will be recognized from the worldwide viewing of the show. He will also never be able to feel completely safe again because of the people that are ignorant enough to believe the accusations of the show and are numb to the truth of the actual reality of making the show.
Wow. Okay.
Grotesque.
Grotesque. I know. Monstrous. That's what he said.
Those people who are ignorant enough to believe what they saw in the show.
I know. The people that are ignorant enough to believe that you are a predator.
Yeah, to believe that he had sexual conversations with who he believed was a 13-year-old girl for a month straight and then showed up at her house to have sex with her, which is
Right.
exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
And that's all they showed. NBC didn't go and say Lorne Armstrong was going to beat and kill this child and
Mm-hmm.
sell her into slavery. There were no false accusations. They
Right.
said, this is what
Yeah.
he said he was going to do in the
Yep.
chat log. This is what he said. And then he showed up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. They weren't lying at all. But it is really funny how he sees that if you see him as a predator, you're just ignorant. He's not a predator.
Yeah, and his life is now ruined
Mm-hmm.
because of NBC. Not because of what he did, not because of his choices and his actions,
Yeah.
but because of NBC. It's really frustrating.
I know. It is frustrating. I know. So here's where he's going to explain his arguments for all of these things. All of that list of items that they violated.
Hmm.
Here's his argument. So the first one we had was injury to rights. Plaintiff states claim for injury to rights under Fourth Amendment that if not for the actions of NBC Dateline, Lorne Armstrong would never have become ill with depression and emotional distress disorder, and for all libel and slander and defamatory accusations made. Quote unquote right within statute requiring an action for injury to rights not arising on contract to be brought within 5 years after accrual of right is a much broader term than the word person within statute requiring that action for injury to the person to be brought within 1 year and includes injury to any right, property, physical, or bodily injury or injury to sensibilities such as mental anguish and the like. So this, what they're talking about here, as far as when they can bring action for it. So he's thinking that he's within his time frame, but he's actually not. So he filed this way too late, basically.
Yeah, it says to be brought within 1 year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so he, okay. Like, did you read that? Did he even read it before? Oh, he's so stupid. And
So,
his whole argument is I had to be put on Prozac and I have depression now because of what NBC did. Anybody, if you throw a brick through, I don't know, your ex-husband's window because he
mm-hmm.
sucks, and then you go to jail for it, and now maybe you're a felon or you're on probation. That's depressing, right? Jail's
Yeah.
not fun. And now how am I going to get a job when I get out of jail with this on my record? That's really depressing. No shit, it's because you did that. It's a
Yeah.
consequence.
Right. Exactly. It's a consequence. Yeah. So yeah, so he's thinking that he's talking about that his right was violated, and so therefore he has the right to file this within 5 years. Whereas with if he was just talking about him as a person, then he would have 1 year. But
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Okay.
but they found otherwise later on down the road, and we'll get there.
Mhm.
So argument 2 is regarding the media ride-along. Plaintiff states claim for media ride-along. It was bad enough that Lorne Armstrong got lured into the bogus sting that was constructed completely for the purpose of television entertainment, but that the authorities also permitted the news reporter to ride from the sting house to the sheriff's department, videotaping Lorne Armstrong all the way was more than appropriate. The media had no governmental purpose for being in the vehicle other than for more possible footage for the television show. This case is one that was began by NBC's Dateline for their To Catch a Predator series in order to sell sex and sensationalism. Oh, Lauren, they were not selling sex. You were not supposed to be
Child
going there for
molestation.
the sex. Yeah,
Child molestation is not sex. It's not
exactly.
selling sex.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was endorsed by the authorities, both federal and state. When the actual arrest came about, it became a media circus that the authorities endorsed and encouraged, contrary to established federal case law. So he lists some case law here, and I don't think it's very interesting, to be honest, to read through all of it.
I agree.
So let's just go ahead and let's see. We're going to skip. Okay. I mean, that's basically it. He's just saying they shouldn't have been there. And he cites some cases that I'm sure are completely different from his.
I did look over them. It's been a while, but I did look over them in the past. And from what I remember, they are completely different.
Yeah, let's see. Okay. So then the third argument has to do with invasion of privacy. Amanda James, would you like to let us know about that?
Plaintiff states claim for invasion of privacy for being present during the search of Lorne Armstrong's truck by recording the police searching the interior of the truck. When suspect signed the consent to search form, it was for the police to search the truck. There was no mention of the media being present before or when suspect signed the consent to search form. The violation of the Fourth Amendment is the presence of the media. The petitioner has the same expectation to privacy in his vehicle as to his home. To invoke the Fourth Amendment protection, a person must show that he had a legitimate expectation of privacy and an objectively reasonable expectation of privacy. And then again, he cites different cases here, which
yeah,
the Ninth Circuit.
Yeah, he's just trying to establish that he had the right to believe that he had privacy.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so unreasonable search and seizure. Plaintiff states claim for unreasonable search and seizure. With the media's presence during the search of suspect's vehicle, they had electronic surveillance equipment present in recording during the search of the truck. Suspect was never informed before or after signing the consent to search form that media and electronic surveillance would be present and recording. So then he includes some case law about the Fourth Amendment.
Again, we just went over that.
Right. So argument 5, overly intruding into law enforcement operation. Plaintiff states claim for overly intruding into law enforcement operation by persuading police to allow NBC Dateline to interview suspect and for strategizing and organizing events with police during the sting operation. The Supreme Court has recognized that the Fourth Amendment is violated if the media overly intrudes into law enforcement operation. So once again, he's just trying to establish some case law here where there were instances when the media was overstepping, but not in this case. So says us.
Right.
So argument 6, zones of privacy. Let's talk about these zones of privacy.
Okay. Plaintiff states claim for zones of privacy for cameraman/woman constantly harassing suspects during the drive from the Sting House to the sheriff's office and during the search of suspect's truck, while suspect was handcuffed and unable to move in any direction to hide from the camera, as was his right to hide from the camera.
Right.
At one point, while suspect was bending over to hide his face from camera, the camera almost touched the suspect's face.
All right. So then he's going to have some case law that he's going to reference here about the privacy zones. Stay out of those zones, people.
Mm-hmm.
So, argument 7, harassment. Plaintiff states claim for harassment for NBC Dateline, having link to perverted justice website, which is also harassing, for the sole purpose of enabling public to view contents of conversation between suspect and decoy. Conversation has been on the website from the time of the sting up to the present date. A person can only handle so much ignorance and exposure in unwanted plus unneeded publicity. Oh.
Why shouldn't the conversation be there? Would be my question to him. Because it
So,
embarrasses him?
yes. So the answer that he would actually give, and I believe this, is that he would say, because it shouldn't be.
Okay.
That would be his answer. And essentially what it comes down to is that he doesn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like this exposure that he's had because it hasn't worked out to his benefit. He tried to flip it around and have it work to his benefit, where he had his YouTube channel, he had his reality show, he was trying to sell things on eBay, he was getting things going with Catfish, trying to make it positive. But of course, it's not going to work. You're a predator, Lorne.
Right. Right.
I mean, that's the cross you're going to have to bear for the rest of your life.
But he's so loyal to the Constitution. That is so important to him. People, our constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
And in his mind, freedom of speech, as outlined in the Constitution, literally means like you are free to say whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
And, and nobody can stop you. Remember, he said that his treatment provider like infringed on his freedom of speech because he wouldn't let him interrupt in the class when they were trying to talk. So he's suggesting, NBC and Perverted Justice were just exercising their freedom of speech by putting that conversation up on the website. Now Lorne wants to violate their constitutional rights, it sounds like to me.
Yeah, and I also think that usually when a crime is committed and there's an investigation, a lot of times the law enforcement agency won't disclose things, not out of privacy reasons, but because they have an investigation going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's why would they care really about stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we have to keep this private. I mean, it's not like they blasted his social security number on the screen.
No, you have no expectation of privacy while committing a crime.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's what he's arguing, is that even when you're committing a crime, you have a reasonable expectation of privacy.
Yeah. So then, well, interestingly enough, for this argument, he doesn't cite any case law at all.
Nope, just his own subjective feelings that a person can only handle so much ignorance.
I wonder what he thinks the word ignorance means. I would just be interested to know a definition.
I think he thinks it means like stupidity and rudeness.
Yeah.
Unkindness. You're being ignorant.
Yeah, intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Argument 8, speaking of intentional disclosure of private facts. Plaintiff states claim for intentional disclosure of private facts. The ignorance of any such person or persons that would put portions of an individual's criminal discovery on national/worldwide television and internet website before the suspect has ever been convicted of a crime astounds me. What's even more disgusting was the authorities condoned this behavior by assisting the media in obtaining the confidential information. How is an individual ever to get a fair trial when such despicable behavior takes place by the people you turn to for protection?
That's a question for the court. Ask yourself that, Your Honor.
I know.
Rethink everything.
I know.
That's like, that really is like saying, oh, that kid just went and shot up a school. Don't put him on TV, though. How will he get a fair trial? Don't put him on the news. Don't report the news until somebody's convicted. That's just not how it works.
And when people are reporting and they're talking about crimes, they always say alleged.
Yeah.
Always, they have to be really careful about that. Because it's true. When someone hasn't been convicted, they haven't been convicted. They're innocent.
Right.
So, they will always say alleged, always. So yeah. Yeah, he wants to have people understand that in order to get a fair trial, you can't know about anything.
So he's mad that NBC included a link to Perverted Justice's website on their website.
Yes.
That's his problem with that.
Yes.
Because how is it confidential or private information? The chat log, it's only half his chat log. It belongs to Perverted Justice too. It's their conversation too.
Yeah.
They can publish it. They have every right to publish it. And why wouldn't Dateline include that, the evidence of what they're showing on their show?
Yeah, you can decide for yourself.
Right, exactly. Right? Yes, yeah. I mean, that's transparency. I don't know. It hurts my brain to try to figure it out.
Well, Lorne wants you to answer this question. He wants you to answer. The media was allowed to gather confidential information that was within the criminal discovery package of the suspects. Once that information was obtained by the media, they then used specific portions of that discovery to intentionally make the suspect look guilty in the public eye by placing those specific portions of the suspect's discovery on their television show and on the internet for the world to see.
It wasn't just portions of his discovery. It was the conversation he had with the decoy, which, like I said, belonged to Perverted Justice. It's half theirs. They were having the conversation as well. It's not like they hacked Lorne's email, right? And stole his private shit and put it on there.
Yeah. It was part of the investigation.
Right.
It was a very, very small as far as the numbers of pieces of evidence that would go in the investigation. It's small. You have the phone calls, you have the chat log, you have him arriving at the house, and then you have the items that he brought with him.
They could have devoted an entire To Catch a Predator, an entire episode to him and his chat log.
Absolutely, they could have. Absolutely. And then also it would have required somebody to seek out that chat log in order to read it. So, I mean, and plus, he's talking about how they only put the bad things in there. It's like the whole thing is bad. There wasn't a single moment in that chat log where it was good for a child being spoken to by an adult.
And they left out a lot of the really graphic and vulgar parts of it. They included, I wish I could marry you right now.
Uh-huh.
That's how much you mean to me and how much I love you. And of
Right.
course, Chris, threw out the famous, is Miss Vagina thinking about Mr. Penis? But they didn't include the instructions Lorne was giving her for what he wanted her to do to herself. Very graphic
Uh-huh.
instructions.
Uh-huh.
They could have, if they just wanted to make him look guilty. Well, he was guilty. It looks guilty because he was guilty, but they went easy on him.
They did. There was no talk about her hair,
I know, and
right?
that is sensationalism. There, I mean, it's not, because it's part of the chat log. They weren't sensationalizing anything, but if you want something that gets a big reaction, that would be something you could to say that
Uh-huh.
would cause, a lot of attention on his chat log.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they left that out.
They did. And they also left out the camera. You know,
Mhm.
what his intended use was for the
Right.
camera in the chat log. They
Mhm.
didn't talk about that. Yeah. So you're right. They really didn't pick out the most graphic, and the reason for that is, of course, they have to put it on TV.
Right.
You know, there's only so many times that Chris can say, "I want to blank your blank."
Right. Right.
So yeah, and so he's talking about the First Amendment here, um, and so he's saying the First Amendment does not guarantee journalists or any other citizen freedom to collect information immune from good faith criminal investigation by means which accord with protection under Amendment 4 or 5, nor does it insulate journalists or any other citizen from general and subjective inhibitions that naturally arise from prospect of such investigation.
So does that mean like a journalist couldn't go break into Casey Anthony's house and steal her private diary and published it? Or what's the Fourth Amendment?
That's
We just
the
talked about it.
yeah, the search and seizure.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what that means. It's late at night here, but it's they how are they violating the Fourth Amendment by taking the conversation that is belongs to perverted justice and just providing a link to it so their viewers can see?
Because it's private. And really what all this comes down to is that Lorne doesn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. So he's going to try to finagle something.
It should be private
It should be private, yeah.
in his mind. Yeah,
Yeah. So he's
I
saying
get
that
it.
that conversation was private and that they shouldn't be, free. The First Amendment does not protect that, so
Okay.
that the journalists can just do what they want with that kind of info. So he goes on and he talks a
Mm-hmm.
lot about this stuff. Um, yeah, he's just citing different cases, and truly, it's not anything that's going to be worthwhile. Um, so the last part, though, says this was nothing more than a cruel act by the media and the authorities to assist in cementing a conviction on the suspect.
So how cruel.
I,
He was just talking sexually to a kid and he
mm,
went to go meet her. Why'd you have to expose him and arrest him and humiliate him?
yeah,
It's really cruel.
that's what he's saying.
He's a victim.
So, argument 9, intentional intrusion on right to be left alone. Amanda James.
Plaintiff states claim for intentional intrusion on right to be left alone. Once suspect had told the decoy no when asked about meeting in person, the suspect should have been left alone. The Association of NBC only continued to harass the suspect for the purpose of greed for ratings on the television series to get another individual on their television series. The suspect had explained to the decoy that they could not meet until decoy was 18 years of age, but that was not good enough for them. They knew suspect was very vulnerable at the time, and they wanted to cash in on his vulnerability. Perverted Justice was being paid by NBC to lure in individuals for the sole purpose of making a television show, and that financial incentive helped push the decoys to press individuals in any way they possibly could to go to the sting house to meet the quote unquote underage girl, or in some cases, boy. Greed is a powerful word, and it has no bounds, obviously, with Perverted Justice and NBC. I just got goosebumps from that last line. Greed is a powerful word. Is it a powerful word, or is it a powerful motivator? Is it just the word is powerful?
Well, the way that he's saying it, yeah.
That word is powerful.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a very powerful motivator, and certainly it motivated Lorne to do some of the things he's done.
So the decoy really pushed, really, really pushed. Um, Lorne said, no, I'm really sorry, but I'm not breaking the law. I'm not going to engage in this with an underage minor. I think that's disgusting. So you need to stop. And from then on, he should have been left alone. And he would have left it alone too, right? He would have just left it. He wouldn't have contacted her anymore. He wouldn't
No.
have, immediately first thing in the morning, good morning, precious. How's my baby today? Do you miss my penis? Want to see my penis? That's what's the most frustrating thing to me is he he can look at the child log and see that none of that is the case.
Right. I know. I, it is very, very strange how he can come up with this kind of stuff when
Yeah.
it's so blatantly not true. It's not even as if he's just stretching it to make it true. It's not true.
Not true, yeah.
Yeah.
He's completely just rewriting what happened.
Yes.
Pretending he told her no, which never happened.
Right.
And then from there, and over the years he's amended this and added on to it and said, finally admitted that yes, he was the one who was talking sexually to her, but it's only because he thought that's what she wanted.
Yes. Yep.
Because she clearly wanted that. She was so engaged in all that talk with him.
Yeah, we saw that in the assignments where he was saying that he didn't want her to leave. He was afraid that she was going to go if he didn't speak sexually to her.
Mm-hmm.
So, argument 10, violating journalistic code of ethics. Plaintiff states claim for violating journalistic code of ethics. NBC and Perverted Justice became so focused on making money and ratings that NBC completely ignored, as SPJ, Society of Professional Journalism states, the nation's most broad-based journalism organization dedicated to encouraging the free practice of journalism and stimulating high standards of ethical behavior. And the RTNDA, Radio Television News Directors Association, the world's largest professional organization exclusively serving the electronic news profession, which includes electronic journalists in radio, television, and all digital media, as well as journalism educators and students. So he's not saying really anything here. He's just stating they violated it, but he's not saying why. And he's not citing any case law. There's nothing here.
Mm-hmm. They just did.
Argument 11, deliberate indifference. Plaintiff claims state's claim for deliberate indifference for persuading police officers to engage in arrest tactics for dramatic effect to make sensational television footage in the manner that broadcaster knew would humiliate him being arrested for soliciting sex. That would be humiliating, yes. I'm sure it's humiliating to be arrested for soliciting sex, but you solicited the sex. So therefore, you get the humiliation.
Yeah, I don't think they were indifferent to his humiliation. I think that was one of the purposes to humiliate people who do that.
Right. And here it looks like he's citing the 14th Amendment. I'm curious. It guarantees rights and liberties to all people born or naturalized in the United States, including formerly enslaved people. All right.
It guarantees what?
It grants. It grants citizenship, equal protection, due process, which states that no state can deprive anyone of life, liberty, or property without due process of law.
Oh, okay.
It's applied. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I don't know. Okay. I'm trying to find some kind of an easy definition so that
maybe he's talking about they violated his right to due process.
Yeah, I think that's what he's saying here. Oh gosh. Okay. Anyway, so there's that. Excellent argument. Under the 14th Amendment, you shall not humiliate me for soliciting sex.
Well, not without due process, at least.
Right, at the very least. So argument 12 has to do with negligence. Amanda James, please.
Plaintiff states claim for negligence. An individual would believe that a normal person or corporation would think twice about doing an action a second time when a life had been taken the first time around because of greed, cruel and heartless intentions filling the person or corporation so much that it blinds what a person should see. Jesus Christ, that. Okay. But because of a material thing and lack of honor, can't see. The sad reality is that Chris Hansen and his NBC crew were so filled with an urge to make a name for themselves and get ratings for NBC that it cost the life of an individual that was supposedly soliciting sex with a minor on the internet. Although that individual did not go to the Sting House even after being invited, that did not stop Chris Hansen and his crew from talking the police into endorsing acts beyond a gross form that ended the life of an otherwise law-abiding citizen with a good name and reputation. When all this transpired, NBC was able to obtain photographs of the body, which was illegal, and jumped at the opportunity to grab any other footage of the scene they could get, just to improve ratings for this disgusting show they inaccurately named. They held no care for the life they caused to be taken. Patricia Conrad, as administratrix of the estate of Lewis William Conrad Jr., deceased plaintiff. Oh, okay, so he's going into what happened.
Yep.
That, wow, a normal person would think that a corporation wouldn't do such a thing. Again, I love how he's pointing out, well, what they did was illegal, by the way. They got pictures of his body. That was illegal. Don't worry about anything that I did that was illegal.
Right. And so he's also pointing out here that guy didn't go to the house. He didn't go to the Sting. Lorne went to the sting.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, his whole argument is that they shouldn't have made another show
Correct.
after
Yes.
that
Yep. And that's
because
negligent.
it was, yeah. And I love how he said he was an otherwise law-abiding citizen.
Yes.
It doesn't matter at that point. Other than this terrible crime that he committed, he was a law-abiding citizen. So
And how do you
take
know
it
that?
easy. Well, he doesn't. He had a good name and reputation. But Chris Hansen was so concerned about making a name for himself because he didn't already have a name as a respected journalist by that point. He
Right.
really, neither did NBC. They were like a tiny little network
Yeah,
before
absolutely.
NBC. Foolish.
Would you like to continue?
Oh, yes. NBC Dateline had learned of many of the wrongs and civil rights violations they were performing after that show. But instead of taking the show off the air immediately, they decided to try to get away with one more show. They neglected to keep in mind all of the illegal acts they were performing, or just didn't care, and once again used their charm and the power of the press on another law enforcement agency to gather enough persons together to make one last show. It makes me wonder what it takes for a corporation to learn to not be so heartless to risk another person's life for such a simple cause, such as ratings for a television show, because there certainly wasn't any other reasons. Negligence is the act of uncaring and intentional selfish motives and should not be tolerated in any land. From such acts such as these that NBC seems to assume they can get away with without punishment. Is he drunk?
You might be.
Shouldn't be tolerated in any land.
Yeah, he's just going off on one there.
And it's for a simple cause like TV show ratings. He's completely discounting the fact that of course it's a TV network. Their objective is to get viewers and ratings, of course, but it's also to expose a huge issue and shed light on it and how make people understand that their kids are in danger from guys like this online,
Yeah.
and that these guys, you never expect it. They're just normal. They appear to be just normal men, but look what they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah. So he has no case law for that either. He just references the Patricia Conrad lawsuit that she filed on behalf of her brother. But yeah, there's nothing here. I mean,
It makes me wonder.
it makes me wonder. He's just having a little monologue. It's just between him and the judge.
He's just pondering.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like the line above, he was talking about suspect and Mr. Armstrong. But now it makes me
Right.
wonder.
Right. I know. He wants the judge to hear him and really hear his heart and see that, he's just somebody who got caught up in a bad situation and he's been wronged here. So make it right and give me $80 million.
And look how greedy NBC was. He's asking for $80 million.
I
But they're the
know.
ones who were greedy and grotesque and disgusting, ignorant. He's the one who spent a month showing his penis to a child. But NBC is disgusting.
They sure are.
Grotesque.
Those are some great words for sure.
Powerful words, just like greed.
Yes. Makes you think. I hope everyone's thinking out there. I hope you're thinking. So that is his complaint. That is the complaint in its entirety. So that's that. I mean, what do you think?
I can't believe he didn't win.
I know. Well, if he had one, though, he would be $80 million richer.
Mm.
What do you think would have happened with that
Oh, if
money?
he, oh God. That's so much money that I, even a normal person, I think, couldn't comprehend. Even like a normal person with
Mm-hmm.
a brain couldn't really comprehend that kind of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what someone like Lorne would, he would buy a lot of cigarettes, I think. A lot of
He
them.
would. He would. It makes me think of those shows that they did a long time ago on people who won the lottery and what a
Hmm.
disaster it turned their lives into. It ruined their lives
Hmm.
essentially because they didn't know how to manage it. They're
Yeah.
just people, regular everyday people um, who win a life changing amount of money and they don't know how to manage it. So it
Hmm.
turns into a disaster. I mean, the first thing they'll do is buy a massive home where when you purchase a home, that's not the only expense that goes along with it. So you're just looking at the sticker price. Okay, great. Oh, that's $7 million. No problem. That's
Hmm.
nothing. But you're not thinking of the taxes. You're not thinking
Right.
of the maintenance, the utilities,
Hmm.
um, everything that goes along with it, just as year over year expenses
Hmm.
can't be managed. And then they buy expensive cars that they don't know what to do with.
Hmm.
That again have upkeep that's usually very, very expensive. And then they give money away. They carry money around with them. I remember this one guy who would bring tens of thousands of dollars with him to the strip club. And he would get robbed like all the time.
Oh, that why can't I meet a man with tens of thousands of dollars waiting to get robbed?
Well, just go to the strip club. That's where he was going.
I will try.
Okay. You let us know how you make out, okay?
It's worth a try.
But yeah, I mean it's just too much and they don't have the right people around them because you're not going to know what to do with it, right? Immediately you have taxes. You think you're just going to get that money? You're going to get all that money and the government's not going to not going to take
Hmm.
their share? Of course they will. And
Hmm.
then what does it mean when you give money to people? What is the tax implication of that? There's a lot of things to consider. What are you just going to plop it into your over there at the Cornville Credit Union? Is that what you're going to do? Or are you
Right.
going to do other things like investments and have it in different places? There's
No.
so much to consider and he has no idea. He would get like his brother, one of his brothers to be his accountant, even though he isn't one, but maybe he took a class sometime,
His
you know.
sister Lori is real good with computers.
And
So
that's
she.
exactly the reasoning he would give
Hmm.
as well. Or he'd go down to the Walmart, and start offering people, "Oh, you work with a cash register. You want to manage my $80 million,
Right.
You must be really good with money." But yeah, it would be gone.
Hmm.
But it would be interesting to speculate like what would end up happening? What would end up happening? It would be a disaster because he would make some ridiculous purchases. And I mean, I guess, on a micro level, we can look at what did he do with all of that money from the pandemic?
Right.
Unemployment. It's all
Well,
gone.
yeah. And what did he do? He took out personal loans, equaling thousands of dollars. I think he said like $10,000. Remember when he gave Nikki all the
Yes.
money and he got her an apartment and
Hmm.
that's what he would be doing is trying to buy some woman's attention and affection.
What would Mama Gwen say about that?
Give me back my $5,000 now.
I know. She would
And
also
you
be,
need to take care of Roy.
yeah. Oh my God. He would buy Roy a house.
Yeah, but it'd be a shitty house. Roy can't have a nice house, like not as nice as his. He'd he'd get Roy a trailer and brag about it for the rest of his life about
Mm-hmm.
what a hero he is and how he takes care of everyone.
Yeah. He really would be doing that too.
I don't even know what he would do. But yes, it would be a disaster because Lorne is not smart and he can't turn anything to his benefit, even when you'd think it would. Like you said, with the pandemic, all that money he was bringing in, he spent it
Mm-hmm.
on garbage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Where are all those beanie babies?
They're probably where they have been for years. They're probably in garbage bags in one of his dog sheds
Yeah. Yep, they definitely are.
or a spare room or something.
Oh
My
yeah.
favorite part of the complaint though is how he really gets into the like NBC as a villain towards the end. At
Mm-hmm.
the beginning, he starts off more talking about trying to get them on a technicality.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, like they were filming the search of my truck and they weren't supposed to do that. And um, they disclosed my confidential stuff before I was convicted, therefore tainting a potential jury pool or whatever. And then they're just downright disgusting and
Yes.
evil, greedy, disgusting murderers, basically, because
Yeah.
poor
Essentially,
Lewis
that's,
Conrad.
yes, that's exactly what they're saying or what he's
Hmm.
saying. Yeah. Yeah, he's making them out to be the villain. It turned more into a narrative.
Well, yeah, and by contrast, they're or not by contrast, but by default, because they're the villains, that makes the men caught on the show the victims, the preyed upon.
I know.
They were lured
Oh God.
into that sting house. Those poor men.
Those poor men. Yeah. And especially the man that you see on your screen. Look at that man.
They cost him his own reputation and good name. His reputation as a loving, hardworking, caring protector of children.
Law abiding citizen
Hmm. He
as
only
well.
had a DUI.
Only one. I mean, he committed many.
Yeah, but they only caught him
They
for
only caught him
one.
for one. Yeah, when he launched himself into that house.
Hmm. And again, it's interesting as always. He's so predictable. He had to try to paint himself as the hero. Not only is he, the victim in every situation, he's also the hero in every situation, which is exactly the same thing that happened with Kayla. He was trying to protect her.
Yes.
And then he just didn't want to hurt her feelings. She would guilt trip him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. She basically was begging him to come over and have
Hmm.
sex. She
Yeah,
wanted it so bad.
right, what do you want him to do? Break her heart? That's something an evil villain like Chris Hansen would do.
Chris Hansen would do that. Everyone that works for NBC would do that, and everyone who
Mhm.
works with perverted justice would do that. It's obvious.
They're uncaring and negligent.
Hmm.
So they would.
Grotesque, every one of them. Oh my goodness. Well, there it is.
There it is.
So, next time, I think we'll take a look at what NBC has to say because you know what? They have a response.
I don't think I've ever seen it
Okay.
because I've sort of scrolled through some of this stuff and I always focus on what Lauren says because it's so stupid and
It
ridiculous.
is. I know.
Um, like the whole female powers line. That's
Hmm.
hilarious. But I don't think I've ever seen what NBC said, so that will be fun
Yeah.
to see them just destroy this with
Pretty much.
ease.
Pretty much. Yeah. But it'll be interesting just to take a look at it. And
Hmm.
then I believe that Lorne has a response to their response. And then the judge also has his order too.
Well, I look forward to all of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good time. Thank you for
Good
joining us,
time.
everyone. Thank you
Yes,
so
and
much.
happy Lorne Miss.
Happy Lorne Miss. Happy Lorne's birthday.
Hmm.
It's always funny to me thinking that this is his birthday.
Oh, we missed that too. I was gonna comment on that when he said they intentionally held the sting on his birthday to cause increased distress and emotional damage, basically.
Yes.
Which he has no way of knowing that.
No, he doesn't. It's just,
They
it's a circumstance, so he's going to run with it.
Right. They constructed the whole sting on his birthday. I mean, I that'd be hilarious if they did, and
I know.
that'd be very petty and hilarious, and I would applaud them for it, but I somehow doubt it, honestly. He wasn't the only guy who showed up to this
No.
sting.
Wouldn't it be weird if every single one was just caught on their birthday?
Well, then we would know for sure that they intentionally did it on their
Mm-hmm.
birthdays just to ruin their lives a little more.
I'm
Just
trying to think. I mean, I'm trying to think back to the chat log. When was it disclosed that it was his birthday and he was going to be going on that day? Like, what was the reason why he would have said his birthday?
I I don't know other than the same reason he said his favorite pizza and his favorite color, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of spitting out facts. Or did she ask him oh, I was going to say the ASL thing, but they don't give their birthday, they just give their age, duh.
Right. Yeah, just their
Uh,
age. Um, I'm going to look really quick because I am very curious um, about when that would have come up because,
mhm.
I feel like maybe he would have just said it in relation to her saying, "Oh, it's that weekend," and it just is a really big coincidence.
Could have been. Or
Oh,
they could have exchanged birthdays early on. I just don't know if NBC would, because there's stuff that goes into planning the sting. They have to like rent the house and get everything in order and everybody. It's just for them to be like, oh, it's this guy's birthday. We're gonna do it this day.
right. Yeah, I'm looking up birthday and it brings me to, do you want me to get you pregnant on your 18th birthday?
Hmm.
And then complaining about his dad not giving them any birthday cards or birthday presents. Do they say B day? Oh, they do. Okay, wait. When was the first time? Okay, that was about a birthday party. Um, let's see. He does say birthday. She says her birthday is April 10th. Mine's October 18th, next month. Then I'm going to be
Oh,
37.
so it was early on.
It
Yeah.
was on the 23rd of September.
Okay. I mean, they could have planned it for his birthday, but I think it's 50-50, honestly. Or maybe, I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I think it's probably just a coincidence because they did have to work with the police and
Yeah.
the KBI. Like it was more of an operation. But I do love that idea
I know.
though.
Yeah, it's a lot of hoops to jump through. Like, no, it has to be this day because it's this pervert's birthday.
Yeah, I'll jump through every single hoop that there needs to be in order to get
Right.
there. That's fine.
I know, but what if, who knows? Maybe Michael Patterson's birthday was the end of September. We don't know.
Right.
Why didn't they choose him then?
True.
I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know. Maybe Sherry Twist had some pull. And she was like, this guy is really irritating me.
Yes,
And I hate
I
him.
see his penis every single day. It has to be October 18th.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Well, she got her wish, if that's what
She
it
did.
was. Yes.
And so did we. We got the best gift to the world on Lorne's birthday.
We sure did. We sure did. Well, thank you again for everyone joining us. I'm so glad to have you. And we look forward to seeing you next time. And yeah, so until then, take care.